takes is saying it out loud. Marrakesh. Already your mind has painted a multitude of what is seemingly paradoxical. The old and the new, innovation and tradition, and things you wouldn't really notice a fusing of elsewhere. Except here, it all makes perfect sense. And this isn't just something that is particular to Marrakesh, but to Morocco as a whole, I believe. A country, I will argue, has been founded on this very principle of coexistence. Its wealth and character stems from its roots as a cultural crossroads for many cultures. Indeed, the country is known about 10,000 years of Amazigh presence, 1,400 years of Islam, over 2,000 years of Judaism, and the Romanization of locals, all of which has been expressed in craft we can still study today. And I call these crafts of coexistence. Having been born and bred in Marrakesh, and having grown up around antiques in our home, and through the work that I do at my parents' heritage museum, I've always been conscious of this cultural diversity. But I did not appreciate it as much as I do today. Much younger, I remember thinking that my parents were obsessive hoarders of things, and that my sisters and I would have to share a room to make more space for these things. But today I know that it's these very same things that are displayed at the Heritage Museum and appreciated by museum goers worldwide who praise my parents for their efforts in safeguarding ancestral heritage. The Silk Road, which comes from Asia and all the way to the Maghreb, is what brought us this cultural diversity, I believe. Ahmed Skonti believes that environment is what created this special relationship between people, and geography is what created the special relationship between people and environment. So when we talk about the Silk Road and we look at how vast it is, can we even begin to imagine an alternative paradigm where Morocco was exempt of cultural interchange? I myself am a product of such interchange. My grandparents' origins are from a village right outside of Marrakesh, which was a Jewish confederation called Anmai, before it was Islamicized. And in the 18th century, this very same confederation saw a surge of Saharan settlers who had moved into Marrakesh to come and replace this tribe that had come from Fez under the Almoravid Empire of the 11th century. My great-great-great-grandmother is of sub-Saharan origin, and my grandfathers both traded in rugs, silver, and gold in Timbuktu, in Sudan, in Dakar. So for me, I believe to be Moroccan is to be many things at once, and to carry within your DNA the story of many cultures that have been fused together to create the Moroccan identity. If you look at the kaftan, a Moroccan icon, in its fibers, there is Chinese input in the silk of it. There is Ottoman influence in the Balkans, which then journeys on to tell the story of 15th century embroiderers and exiled craftsmen who made the journey from the south of Spain in 1492 to Morocco. So we can also understand the kaftan as a concrete representation of Morocco's role as a host country to many faiths. We know that the Jewish presence in Morocco dates back to over 2,000 years. And if you look closely at this door, you will notice the Seal of Solomon, either interpreted as evidence of Jewish life in the Hayat or as a symbol of barakah, a symbol of blessing and protection. In fact, the hexagram also featured in the flag of Morocco in the 19th century, and you can also see it in many bronze coins as well. And it's been adopted in many monotheistic religions, including Islam as well. And Jewish artisans are renowned for their contribution in craftsmanship, especially in woodwork, in jewelry, in copper. And I wanted to talk about today their contribution to jewelry. And more than just accessories, jewelry also hold a trading value for when harvest is low during times of drought. And bracelets of Ido Simlel, the region highlighted here in red, is characteristic of Jewish workmanship, which catered to both Muslim clients and Jewish clients all the same. talk about cultural diversity in Morocco, and with over 100 tribes in the country, I think no other craft can do it as much justice as Moroccan rugs. And often what draws people to rugs is our innate curiosity about the other. The weaver, who is always a woman, and has always been a woman, is in total control of just how much she wishes to reveal to the outside world. And normally, we can only really scratch the surface of what her weavings try to convey. Usually around the themes of the desire to be wed, or the desire to bear a child. But much less often we come across signs that have universal meaning, such as here, the Star of David for Judaism, in the Beni Nassim tribe. And here, should we ask, are these crosses alluding to Christian belonging in Morocco? Could the Beni Sadim tribes be trying to reveal part of their identity to the rest of the world? We know of Romanized locals all over North Africa who converted to Christianity around the 2nd century, although this only really lasted until about the 7th century, with the advent of Islam taking over. But we are reminded through symbols and craft that Morocco has always been a crossroads for many cultures. I believe where this movement of people is most evident is in the evolution of embroidery. Its journey from the East has brought about a unique savoir-faire, a contribution worldwide of the fusing of patterns, of color schemes, of techniques. Research would confirm that this overlap is no coincidence. It tells a story of embroiderers that had made the journey from the Ottoman Balkans in the 15th and 16th century, who had made their way to Morocco. And in fact, embroidery from Fez is also called aleuge. And aleuge was a nickname that was given to these Ottoman embroiderers for their conversion to Islam once they'd come to Morocco. Earlier, when I spoke about the kaftan, I briefly mentioned how its history is linked to this migration of exiled craftsmen. Now you can see that there are the Jews of Tafilelt and the costumes of Jews from Shkoler, northern Albania, so much overlap. Yet, the distances between them are far and wide. It is also believed that on a much smaller scale, within Moroccan cities alone, the embroidery of Meknes is a fusion of that of Salé and Fez, both of which are very, very distinct from one another. And we can see how the fusion of two already existing styles can contribute to the creation of a new, yet recycled conception. And so what can we understand from embroidery? What can that teach us about coexistence and society? That much like these patterns are non-identical, definitely similar but non-identical, therefore not an appropriation but mutual influence, that to coexist does not mean that we have to share identical qualities. Instead, we should navigate our differences to find a way to live together and have our values brought together. But what about intangible heritage? The one that we cannot feel, we cannot touch. I believe it is equally important, and it is something that has marked me. Growing up, I remember my parents and I used to go to the Knawa Music Festival, and I still do. And it is something that has taught me so much about Morocco's Africanness. This music is a conduit for Moroccans to rediscover their African heritage, because its history tells a story of slavery in Morocco, and it sheds light on the interplay of race relations and religion in the country. And there are two broad groupings of spirits that are invoked during a Gnawa ritual. Black patron saint Baba Numun of West Africa, and Abdul Qadir Jilani of Eastern origin. And this duality between Central Arab lands and West Africa is expressed and articulated through the use of heavy cowrie-shelled hats and entrancing mats, And once the profession of Islamic belonging is uttered during a ritual, this marks the end of the ritual. So we can understand that this duality is a strong assertion that Ghanaian musicians are, at the same time, West African, Muslim, and Moroccan. And so the alliance of these three elements brings about the coexistence of an identity, of a Moroccan identity that keeps on growing and spreads and spreads and spreads. What can we learn from perhaps both the tangible and the intangible about coexistence? And what does it mean to be Moroccan? To be Moroccan is to be many things at once. And I hope today that I've showed that Morocco's journey and Morocco's identity expands all the way from the east, and a culmination of everything, of a whirlwind of things that are brought together in this very small country that is at the same time physically in Africa, overlooking the Mediterranean, and having been part of the Silk Road. To be Moroccan is to be many things at once. And I do not believe that we can dilute the Moroccan identity to a single unitary vision of it. And this is something that our ancestors have been hinting at for centuries in their craft work. And it's a lesson that we should be reminded of today more than ever before. Thank you.